Warning: the following video contains graphic details and may not be suitable for all viewers. This content explores real-life crime stories and intense subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello guys and welcome back to our channel, Crimes Under the Microscope. I'm Miki and this is my sister
Magda
and together we are me.
and Ma, we hope you had a good week, or if you stress too much, you can sit back and relax while we start speaking about our case, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Today, we'll start to talk about the Hua serial murder case and how the killer managed to avoid punishment for over 30 years.
Yeah, so the Hwasong serial murder case was a mystery that happened in South Korea in the 80s. So for 5 years, from 1986 to 1991, a series of tragic events occurred in Hwasong. So during this time, 10 females were victims of horrifying crimes that left the whole nation in shock. These victims, ranging from teenagers to adults, experienced terrible things and the impact was huge.
Join us as we unfold the facts of this case and understand what happens. So let's start by presenting you how was the Korean society in the 80s, the city of Hwasong, and the possibilities to solve such crimes in that period. Step into the time machine and let's journey back to the 80s in Hwasong, a city nested in South Korea's Gyeonggi province. In those days, Hwasong had a distinct charm, still holding on to its rural essence with expansive rice fields and an air of simplicity on its streets. But change was in the air, a subtle rumbling as the 80s unfolded. Hwasong, once a peaceful countryside retreat, was waking up to the allure of modernity. The city's proximity to Seoul acted like a magnet, pulling in new ideas, businesses, and a wave of urban influence. The transformation was underway, and with it came a growing population, a melting pot of diverse backgrounds converging on the city in transition. South Korean society mirrored this transitional phase, navigating the shift from agrarian traditions to becoming an economic powerhouse. Traditional values and Confucian principles persisted, but the allure of modernization and Western culture was undeniable. Against this backdrop, the realm of crime and justice unfolded with its own set of challenges. Forensic technology, still in its infancy compared to today's standards, sets the stage for the Hwasong serial murder case, a defining moment for law enforcement grappling with limited resources. Investigators, armed with traditional techniques, leaned on witness statements and foundational tools like fingerprints and blood analysis. This challenging landscape demands a unique blend of skill, perseverance, and a touch of old-school detective finesse to unravel the complexities of the case. Yet, law enforcement faces its own set of hurdles: scarce resources, slower methodologies, and the occasional reliance on tactics that in retrospect might seem unconventional. The political landscape added complexity, with authorities eager to showcase control, often exerting intense pressure on detectives to promptly conclude investigations. This is not just a journey through time, but an exploration of a city in transition, a society at the crosscurrents of tradition and progress, and a justice system navigating the challenges of its era. So, in the 80s, South Korea was in a period of transition, continuing its process of development and modernization while embracing democracy. And an event that helped it assert itself and showcase its progress was the 1988 Summer Olympics, which was hosted by South Korea. In the late 80s, South Korea stood at the crossroads of unprecedented change, hosting two major sporting events that will leave an indelible mark on the nation's history. The 1986 Asian Games in Seoul and the 1988 Summer Olympics, a showcase of South Korea's rising global prominence, were transformative moments. However, these glittering spectacles inadvertently cast a shadow on the pursuit of justice. As the nation basked in the glory of successful international events, the euphoria surrounding the Games may have mistakenly diverted attention from the grim reality. As the world marveled at South Korea's achievements on the global stage, the dark chapter of the serial murders cast a long shadow over the nation, reminding us that sometimes, in the pursuit of grandeur, the quieter cries for justice can be drowned out.
I think they wanted to be cautious and avoid another incident because on November 29, 1987, two North Korean spies detonated a bomb in a plane, killing 150 people, the majority being Koreans. So it was an act of sabotage to postpone the Olympics that were being hosted by South Korea. So the authorities wanted to ensure safety, and that is why all the attention was on that event.
사건의 장본인 김현희입니다. 대남부서 부장, 최고 간부인 부장이 직접 나와서 저에게 임무를 주었습니다. 88 서울 올림픽을 앞두고 두 개 조선 조작 책동을 하는 남조선 계례에게 큰 타격을 주기 위해 남조선 비행기 한 대를 제끼라는 그 임무였습니다.
11월 12일 김승일과 함께 평양을 출발, 모스크바와 부다페스트, 비엔나, 베오그라드를 거쳐 28일 바그다드에 도착해 폭탄의 폭발 시각을 9시간 뒤로 조작해놓고 칸일기에 올랐으며 폭발물을 선반 위에 넣고 중간 기착지인 아부다비 공항에 내림으로써 11월 29일 오후 여객기가 폭파돼 115명의 고귀한 명을 죽음으로 이끌었습니다.
However, thinking on our case, they left out many clues and handled it superficially, and that is why the killer managed to escape so many times.
Yeah.
So let's continue and find out which are the victims and what happened to them.
The Hwasong murders began with the tragic death of Hwa Nim, a 71-year-old woman, on September 15, 1986. Her body was found 4 days later, showing signs of sexual assault and strangulation. Investigators, despite their efforts, couldn't find any fingerprints or footprints. Moving on to October 20th, 1986, the assailant targeted 25-year-old Pa Hyun-suk. 3 days later, near a canal in Hwasong, her body was discovered with stab wounds, signs of sexual assault, and stocking used for asphyxiation. Though there was semen at the scene, the killer's identity remained elusive. The town's response, including a scarecrowing protest, didn't deter the assailant. On December 12, 1986, Kwon Jong-boon, a 24-year-old housewife, became the third victim, tragically killed just meters from her home. Her body, found 4 months later, displayed the recurring pattern of hands tied and undergarments removed. 2 days later, on December 14, 1986, 23-year-old Lee Kye-suk met her demise on a rainy night. Her murder featured strangulation and an umbrella used as an assault tool. Despite rain washing away immediate evidence, the umbrella yielded crucial clues, blood stains and semen. The new year didn't bring respite. On January 10, 1987, fresh graduate Hon Jin-young, aged 19, fell victim while walking on an embankment. Her hands were bound with a bra and she was suffocated with her scarf. The crime scene's proximity to previous incidents raised concerns of a serial murderer. In May 1987, Park Hoon-ju, a 29-year-old housewife, became the 6th victim found near her home. The crime displayed variations, with semen identified as type A, complicating the investigation. On September 7, 1987, the killer took an even more disturbing turn by abducting 54-year-old Ahn Gi-soon. Her body, discovered a day later, revealed a gruesome escalation: rape, strangulation, and an inexplicable act involving peach slices. A year later, on September 7, 1988, the killer altered his approach, breaking into a family's home and claiming the life of 14-year-old Park Sang-hee. The shift shocked the town, leaving the family shattered. November 15, 1990, marked another tragic chapter with the attack on 14-year-old Kim Hee-jung. She was raped, strangled, and her body discovered the next day, bearing cuts on her chest with a razor from her pencil case. A footprint and a blood sample unrelated to the victim indicated a struggle with someone of blood type B. The harrowing tale concluded on April 3, 1991, with the final victim, 69-year-old Kwon Soon-sang. Her rape, strangulation, and mutilation marked the end of a dark chapter in Hwasong's history, leaving the town scarred by the crimes.
As we can see, he's a very distinctive killer and his methods are unusual. He chose his victims randomly, like, I want to kill someone, so let's take this person's life, and strike whenever he had a chance. Also, the age and the location of the victims doesn't matter, so they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
These crimes are brutal and the way he acted is extremely violent, which indicates a rage that he couldn't control. But in the same time, he still had some particularities and patterns that he followed, even if he was unorganized. So let's take a look at them.
The Hwasong serial killer exhibited a distinct lack of premeditation in his actions. Victim selection appeared arbitrary, targeting women alone at night. The absence of a discernible pattern suggested an impulsive and opportunistic approach. Operating during various hours, including the late evenings, weekends, and an unconventional 6 a.m., the killer's timetable lacked consistency. Victims, seemingly unconnected, became target of circumstance rather than design. The assailant's methodology, while lacking sophistication, was ruthlessly effective. Employing whatever means were readily available, the attacks were marked by a sudden and brutal nature. What perplexed investigators was the peculiar signature left at each crime scene, an organized arrangement of belongings and strategically positioned bodies, indicative of a need for control. A disturbing regularity surfaced in the killer's modus operandi. Characterized by opportunistic strikes, victims were bound and gagged with their own clothing, followed by a sequence of assault and strangulation. This methodical pattern persisted across all cases. In the challenging pursuit of justice, law enforcement contended with a perpetrator who displayed a lack of strategic planning. The Hwasong serial killer operated on impulse, leaving a community in fear and investigators grappling with the complexities of a case devoid of predictable patterns or discernible motives.
So, at first, the police couldn't make any kind of connection between these cases, but as the number of unsolved crimes increased, they started to observe some similarities and patterns, and finally discovered they were linked. So, they were looking for a serial killer.
Yeah, this led to a more serious and extensive investigation because the media and the society wanted answers, so they were constantly pressured to solve the case as soon as possible. Still, considering that all the events occurred in the late 80s, early 90s, the investigative methods were rather inadequate or basic. So let's dive deep into this subject.
Initially perceived as isolated incidents, the murders escalated, drawing the attention of authorities only after the fourth and fifth victims fell prey to the unknown assailant. Limited by outdated technology and inadequate protocols, forensic capabilities struggled to preserve crime scenes and gather conclusive evidence. Fingerprints, footprints, and composite sketches formed the backbone of the investigation, but the outdoor crime scenes, often in open fields and rice paddies, presented challenges of contamination. Rain and lack of preservation methods distorted footprints, and fingerprints were elusive. DNA analysis, although later introduced, provided only limited breakthroughs due to the poor quality of samples. The perpetrator left behind a trail marked by hair strands and a cigarette butt. A profile emerged describing an individual of specific characteristics: tall, thin, with a sharp nose and distinctive slit eyes common in East Asia. He had soft hands, indicating a departure from the stereotypical laborer. The geographic profile further suggested a local connection as crime scenes were scattered across rural parts of Hwasong. Victims chosen around their homes hinted at a pattern of observation, while bodies dumped in remote locations underscored a deliberate effort to conceal the crimes. The scope of the investigation expanded exponentially, with over 20,000 individuals scrutinized. Prime suspects emerged, each with its own story of arrests, confessions, and subsequent releases. Yoon Sang-yu, a 22-year-old repairman, found himself entangled in the web of wrongful conviction. His life was marked by the challenges of polio, a noticeable limp, and a solitary existence that left him begging for money outside the restaurant. Initial suspicions arose when pubic hair at the crime scene exhibited a 40% match to Yoon's own. His arrest, however, reflected a tragic misstep as further investigation revealed he was not a serial killer. Differences in victims' profile and modus operandi became glaringly apparent, highlighting Yu's attempt to mimic the actual perpetrator's methods. Under intense, harrowing questioning that spanned 3 days, Yoon confessed, resulting in a life sentence. His assertion of innocence, later supported by the disparities in his crime, went unheard. Handcuffed, sleep-deprived, and subjected to relentless interrogation, Yoon's vulnerability was exacerbated by his lack of legal knowledge and education. Sadly, during the 80s in South Korea, such tactics were not uncommon, especially in cases with weak evidence. Yoon's case was not an isolated incident. Abuse during the Hwasong murder case investigations extended to others, such as Mr. Kim, accused based on a dream a medium had about him. Despite winning a lawsuit against the government for damages in 1995, Kim succumbed to depression and PTSD, tragically taking his own life 2 years later.
After Yoon's conviction, the police treated the case as it has been solved. However, there were still new other cases, all related to Hwasong serial murders. So, instead of exonerating Yoon and reopening the investigation, he was convicted for the murder of Park Sang-hee, the 8th victim, and was perceived as a copycat killer.
Yeah, as for the other cases, no new evidence surfaced, and with time they were gradually classified as unsolved cases. So let's find out who was the real perpetrator and why he was discovered only after 30 years.
The turning point in the Hwasong serial murder case occurred when the Unsolved Case Division within the Gyeonggi Nambu Provincial Police Agency revisited the evidence after 33 years. The preserved DNA sample tucked away in the police evidence database unveiled the identity of the suspect, Lee Chun-jae, currently serving a life sentence for the rape and murder of his sister-in-law in 1994. In subsequent examinations, Lee's DNA matched samples from the crime scenes in cases 9, 5, and 7. A breakthrough on September 19, 2019 led to the identification of DNA samples from around 20 pieces of evidence collected from various crime scenes by October 1, 2019. This breakthrough became possible through a 2010 legislation, the Act on Use and Protection of DNA Identification Information, enabling the collection of DNA samples from offenders involved in specific crimes. Lee's DNA, collected during his incarceration for a separate murder in 1994, was available on the National DNA Database, allowing for a miraculous cross-referencing of his DNA with the Hwasong cases. The police engaged in face-to-face interrogations with Lee over 2 weeks, deploying professional profilers to aid in obtaining relevant confessions. Lee Chun-jae, born in Hwasong in 1963, had a seemingly ordinary childhood but faced significant personal losses. His military service transformed him from a shy village kid to a leader, but upon leaving the army in 1986, he seemed to lose his direction. Lee's criminal activity, starting in February 1986 with a rape, escalated to multiple assaults and murders. The intriguing twist lies in a period of dormancy in his crimes from 1989 to 1990, a time when he was already in prison for an unrelated offense. After his release in April 1990, Lee continued with his life, working various jobs and meeting his future wife. However, the killings resumed and later his wife left him in December 1993 due to his abusive behavior. She recounted instances of him throwing an ashtray at her and physically abusing their 2-year-old son. His wife also revealed that he had raped her multiple times. In January 1994, Lee invited his sister-in-law over to retrieve his ex-wife's belongings. While she was at his place, he drugged her drink with sleeping pills and proceeded to rape her. Despite her struggle to stay awake, the drugs eventually took effect and Lee observed that she drifted off. Once she was unconscious, he struck her with a heavy object, wrapped her body in his wife's clothes, and disposed of her in the yard of a hardware store close to his home. The following day, Lee feigned concern and assisted in the search for his sister-in-law after she was reported missing. Her body was eventually found in an unused garage concealed under a tarp. Police noted that her head was covered with clothing and hands tied with her own underwear. Suspicion grew around Lee as blood matching the victims was discovered on his washing machine, and he inquired about the legal consequences of rape and murder. His behavior raised further alarms when it was revealed he had called his sister-in-law on the day of her disappearance. Lee was arrested 5 days after the murder. Although he initially pleaded not guilty and managed to have his confession dismissed due to alleged coercion, he eventually admitted his involvement. He claimed her death was an accidental result of an argument where he lost control. However, the court ruled it as premeditated given his actions of luring her, dragging her, and the evidence found. After 3 trials, Lee was found guilty and initially sentenced to death in May 1994. His sentence was later commuted to life in prison with a minimum of 20 years. Lee's arrest and subsequent trials unfolded a complex and violent side to his personality, contrasting with his outwardly mild-mannered demeanor. Psychological assessments revealed traits of narcissism, sadism, aggression, and a lack of empathy, portraying Lee as a psychopath and merciless killer. The Hwasong serial murder case, once shrouded in mystery, found resolution with the unmasking of Lee Chun-jae.
We can observe that Lee Chun-jae, the actual killer, consistently exhibited violent tendencies, which escalated starting with 1986 when he returned from military service. So these acts of rage and violence gradually spilled over into his life and can be seen in the way he treated his wife and son. This is why, in the end, Lee revealed his true nature and in 1994 was convicted for the murder of his sister-in-law.
The fact that he was also a suspect in the Hwasong serial murders underscores the negligence and the superficiality of the police regarding the investigation. In the end, it was actually the real killer who confessed and provided all the details. So let's continue and see more of the criminal's declarations and Yoon's retrial, where Lee Chun-jae was the key witness.
In 2009, Yoon Sang-yu walked out of prison after nearly 2 decades, unwavering in his innocence. Lee Chun-jae's confession to Park Sang-hee's murder reignited Yoon's quest for a retrial to clear his tarnished name. In November 2019, police became convinced that Lee Chun-jae was indeed the killer of Park Sang-hee due to his detailed knowledge of the crime scene and the victim. The district prosecutor's office confirmed that Yoon had been a victim of police brutality and that the forensic evidence against him had been fabricated. Consequently, 8 investigators involved in the case were charged with abuse of power, illegal detention, coercing a confession, and falsifying evidence. In Yoon's retrial in November 2020, Lee came forward as a witness and confessed to the murder of 14-year-old Park Sang-hee. When questioned about his motives, he straightforwardly stated that it was an impulsive act.
저요? 예. 오늘 여기 왜 왔는지 알고 계시죠? 예. 증인은 화성 연쇄살인 사건의 진범 맞습니까?
예, 맞습니다.
다른 사건들과 다른 특이점이 있습니까?
실내에서 일어난 겁니다.
다른 건 다 실외에서 일어난 거지만
예, 그렇습니다.
범행 장소는 어디입니까?
저희 집 근방입니다. 100m 약간 안 되는 거보다.
피해자의 집은 어떻게 들어갔어요?
대문이 조금 열려 있어가지고 그냥 문으로 들어갔습니다.
수사기관에 사람이 제치된 증거에 오르는데 법원이 발견하게 됐습니다. 결국 제 번째 판결이 선고되었습니다. 그럼 피고인에게 판결 주문을 선고하도록 하겠습니다. 피고인 잠시 일어나주시겠어요? 피고인은 무죄. 이상 재심 재판을 마치도록 하겠습니다.
Lee also revealed that he was one of the 20,000 people questioned by the police during the serial murders investigation. Surprisingly, he had the victims watching his pocket when questioned, but he was only asked for identification and was let go. He expressed his surprise at not being caught sooner. During his confession, Lee Chun-jae admitted to 30 cases of rape and attempted rape, providing intricate details about the crimes and the locations. He drew a map marking the spots where he had left the bodies of his murder victims. On the map, he scribbled a note: murder 12 plus 2, rape 19, and attempted 15. He corrected investigators if they got any facts wrong and vividly recalled landmarks from the time of the murders. They revealed that he often committed these crimes between 9 to 10 p.m. after work on his way home. On March 10, 2021, the 5th Criminal Division of the Suwon District Court ruled to compensate Yoon with 2.5 billion Korean won, which is more than $2 million US. The compensation aimed to address the mental distress, losses during detention, and the circumstances leading to Yoon's eventual exoneration.
What do you think? Yeah, it's great that you received compensation, but it's crucial to acknowledge that these men spent 20 years in prison, wrongfully convicted. This kind of mistakes shatter people's lives, so the authorities must be aware and treat any investigation meticulously with attention and dedication. Keep in mind that during the trial, Lee expressed his surprise for not being discovered earlier, like he was proud for not being exposed as a serial killer for more than 3 decades. Also, let's not forget that Lee was never charged for the Hwasong serial murders due to South Korea's status of limitation, which in that period kept unsolved crimes older than 15 years.
Yeah, however, this case gained significant public attention in South Korea and prompted legislative changes. Consequently, while the statute of limitations was previously set at 25 years in 2015, there are now no time limits for first-degree murders.
There are many theories about the Hwasong murders, and even a movie was released. This movie is called Memories of Murder, which was directed by Bong Joon-ho. So it's interesting to watch it because it points out important facts and details, and I really recommend it.
So, we've reached the end of this case and we hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and please share your thoughts in the comments. Also, remember to keep an eye on the teaser that we'll post. It's about our upcoming case and you can try to guess who will be next. So, see you next time guys, and have a fantastic week. Take care!
Bye bye!